Every story needs a hero, and every story needs a villain.
All right, we're just going to get right to it. Welcome back to Hero and the Villain. Today we have a really fucking cool episode. As I told you before, we're all about bridging out our subject matter as much as possible. We've been doing that a lot lately. So how can I combine shadow work and something I love very dearly, such as metal? Well, what you do is you interview somebody who is the front man for one of your favorite groups and dive a little bit into the psychology behind the art that is extreme metal. So for me, it's quite an honor to have Cain Cressall from the Amenta as my guest today. The Amenta has been around since the mid 2000s. They've had a few incarnations, and Cain joined the group in 2009. He then helped shape the band's sound to what it is today. And they have released what I feel is the top metal album of the year in an album called The Revelator, which has been out since February 2021. Along with it, they have had some extremely intriguing videos, and they're about to release another one this Friday for the song Twin Towers. So you should go check them out. If you like extreme metal, if you like heavy stuff, if you like heavy stuff done extremely well, and that is extremely unique. I've always said that they're kind of the skinny puppy of extreme metal. You want to check them out. But today, we're going to talk with Cain about the album, about the hiatus, about the creative process of the group, and his own creative process and his own shadow work, because that's what we do here. So let's get right to the interview with Cain from the Amenta.
And I know from about 2013 to when the Revelator came out, you guys really never stopped kind of like working on stuff, did you? Like during the hiatus, you kind of still toyed around with song ideas, even though you were technically taking a break. So 7 years in the making to get the album written. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we just, the taking a step back was more from shows, just because it felt like we were kind of getting stuck in a bit of a feedback loop kind of thing, and our efforts were more, we felt it was more important to prioritize creating new stuff than just jumping on and off planes and doing, going around in circles. It had felt like it had run its course. And we definitely did not intend on taking that much of a step away from the live circuit. Previously, there'd been about 3 years between albums. So around the time we hit the 3-year mark, I'm starting to think myself, okay, surely we'll be wrapping this up pretty shortly. But it just continued to drag, and we continued to pick things to pieces and deconstruct things and reconstruct them and throw songs in the bin and then check in on them a year later and go, actually, there was some real juicy stuff in this arrangement. Let's take the core of this and rebuild it into something completely different. And yeah, I guess we got a bit sucked into that void of lack of deadline and all the time in the world to criticize your own work and tear it to pieces and all the rest of it. So as much as it was a bit, it was a bit of a nightmare at times. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change anything about that process. I think the reason the album came out the way it did was largely because of that process. And it is what it is, and it was received well, and I'm happy with the overall production. So yeah, but we'll try and keep the distance between albums a little bit a little bit more concise this time. No one wants to do an 8-year
Right.
journey into madness again. With
What part? So what point as artists? Because being a musician and artist myself, I know that we're our worst enemy when it comes to trying to perfect something and then going, oh, that could be better. Then you stall it and want to go back and work on it. So at what point did you and the band just kind of go, all right, I think this is ready. We could go and revise this stuff a million times, but you got to the point where all the songs kind of felt like they were ready to be put like into the album format and go, this is our finished product.
yeah, it was. I would have to say, I think it was probably in 2019, possibly. My concept of time is shocking, so often I'll be asked questions like this and I'll say, oh, 2019. Nah, dude, that was 2012 we did that tour. Oh, really? Okay, it doesn't seem like that long ago, but I'd say it was probably about 2019, late 2019 maybe, or early 2020, where we started on that next journey of the actual mixing process, and that was its own nightmare. That would have been a mountainous effort so Eric, our guitarist, mixed the album, and he has been mixing the band's albums since I joined, I think. Yeah, so he mixed Void, the first EP that we did, and he's continued in that fashion since then. And but yeah, it would have been quite a mountain of work to get through, and it was an enormous mountain of tracks that he had to sort of figure out some way of making this work. So it was a pretty intense, massive project, just the mixing in itself. And found myself just I didn't have the capacity to really be there 100% all the time. So at that end of the process, it was really a lot of me sort of just going, oh, if you guys are happy, just move forward. Because if you're waiting for me to sort of think about things and give in-depth replies to discussions about where the mix is at the moment, I'm just not really going to be able to offer a whole lot. So yeah, let's just move it along and get this thing out. So
And I've always been kind of interested in the process. When you joined in 2009, correct? I believe right after
Yeah.
Dawn. So when it comes to the lyrics, I've always been a fan of like the lyrics, but I've never figured out if you're writing most of the lyrics or you're working with Tim on the lyrics, or because the lyrics are so just, they're intense, abstract. A lot of it seems like, especially in the new album, a lot of wordplay happening with it. So are the lyrics and concepts within the tracks collaborative, or did they give you kind of the full reins being the vocalist?
Well, the way that has always worked in the past was, well, Tim has always been the lyricist for the band since the beginning. So the first couple of albums, it's all Tim's lyrics, and how much of that was, as far as vocal patterns and things like that go, I'm not sure how much that fell in the how much that was really spearheaded by the vocalists for those two albums. I wouldn't know, but since I joined, it was pretty much, well, the first collaboration that we had was the song Void, where the song had been written long before I joined. It had been sitting around, this arrangement, and Tim just sends me a sheet of lyrics that aren't written specifically to any kind of pattern or any kind of game plan, really. It's just, here's a big page full of stuff that I wrote that might be useful for this song. And so I'll sit down with that sheet, and then sometimes I'll sit down with the song without any lyrics, and I'll work out all the vocal patterns and melodies and whatever, and then and just kind of demo gibberish just for the sake of plotting out where I'm hearing the vocals in my head. And then I'll take Tim's lyrics and sit there and see. It becomes like a real jigsaw puzzle. Basically, I've got the vocal department sort of worked out in my head, and now I'm sort of using this sheet to try and sort of match syllables to fit what I've sort of plotted out. And sometimes I will actually sit with the lyrics, and on the fly I'll be having that lyric sheet in front of me as I'm creating the vocal patterns and melodies and things, and using it directly as I'm sort of figuring it out. So the only input I've actually had lyrics wise was on the previous album, on Flesh is Air. I'd contributed to 2 songs on that. I'm a slow writer. So as far as lyrics go, I've never been a particularly prolific lyricist. I jot down little bits and pieces here and there, but at the end of the day, I'm not a prolific writer. I've never built those kind of habits. So it's always a bit more of a labored, focused effort to get through writing songs. So but I really enjoyed writing for the songs I did work on with that album. As much as I enjoy working with Tim's lyrics, it really doesn't make much difference to me. The exciting part for me is the actual crafting of the vocal patterns and tones and textures, and I'm kind of like a painter the way that I write my vocal parts. It's like I've got this canvas and I'm just painting and layering and wiping away and dirtying up and scratching and messing with it, like I'm putting together a painting sort of thing. So to be honest, I probably find it easier working with Tim's lyrics. I don't have to be invested in that element of the song. There's stuff there, and I'm just reaching into this bag of tools and sort of working with them that way. Whereas when I'm actually writing the lyrics, I'm very sort of, I take that all quite seriously, and it can sometimes be a hindrance to the creative process because I get tied up on specifics of the intention behind words and what I want them to say and blah, blah, blah. It's just another element to get sort of trapped in. So if Tim's offered a lyric sheet for a song, it's kind of an easier ride for me because I can just focus 100% on the creativity and the construction of the song rather than getting tied up in the lyrics. But once I'd got through that first maybe 2 songs using Tim's lyrics, I realized there's no way I'm writing anything for this album, because this particular flavor of abstract poetry is too specific for somebody else to get involved without it seeming like a jarring upset to the rhythm of the album. If I was to write anything for this, I'd really have to be super focused in trying to emulate what you're already doing, and trying to write lyrics in with the mindset of imitating somebody else's style is just not natural for me. I wouldn't feel excited about doing that. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it. I'd just rather say, look, this is very specific, personal interesting stuff. You just keep rolling with this stuff, and I'll just keep working with it. So yeah, I really enjoy working with them that way. It's a pretty good deal.
So when it comes to the art aspect of things, which is, I think, one of the they've been the coolest things to see when the album dropped, the teaser video, the video for Money, and then the other video clips that come after that. That to me was like, oh, Amenta's back, and they're completely kind of almost, I don't say reinvent because I don't like that word, but like up their game to like a new phase of what the band is.
Awesome.
Flesh's Air, the Teeth video, for example. Black, very high contrast, with like the chains and this and that, and like, and now it's Amenta has color like all over the videos. It's very bright and vibrant. And so to me, being a fan, I was very taken back on, whoa, this is a cool 180 they've done, and you were able to make it work. So when initially I wanted to chat with you about it, I wanted to ask about, okay, so obviously new album, taking the sound to a new level. Now you're doing these videos where it's not just a typical all black metal video. It's like vibrant there. It's almost like an acid trip, and the idea of like how much color is going on. And I remember, I think I said something about, it reminded me if Skinny Puppy became an extreme metal group because of the contrast on the art. So when it came to the art aspect of the videos, knowing you're an artist as well as a vocalist and singer, did you kind of visualize a lot of these ideas that came to life in the video? You and Tim kind of talk about it, like, hey, this is how we want to execute this idea to have the visual for these songs.
Well, the way that worked was really just, we knew we needed some visuals. We need to at least put one video together, so there's something to sort of, something animated that can say this is who you're listening to. So I was lucky enough to reconnect with a filmmaker that I'd gone to high school with. So we were good friends in high school, and then sort of parted ways and did our thing, and reconnected just as I was trying to figure out how I was going to put this music video together, because I'd already drafted a list of visual ideas for the See Money video, but I wasn't sure how we were going to do it, because at that time we were there were restrictions, and I think we'd just been locked down. So finding someone that was willing to work with me on a music video during lockdown was difficult. But luckily I found I'd reconnected with Garth Hurley from CRT Films, and he was just completely up for the adventure. So I said, okay, well, let's sit down with my list of ideas, and you can tell me which things you think would be realistic to bring to life, because obviously some things are going to be, you might just say, oh, that's not going to be possible because we're going to need this and we're going to need that and it's going to cost too much and blah, blah, blah. So I sat down with him with this list, and the list was based on literally nothing more than just me sitting down with headphones, listening to the song really loud in a dark room, so that I'm just focused internally on letting my subconscious bring pictures to my mind and just honoring those and jotting them down where I feel that they have a real potency. If it feels like, if I have that feeling of being a kid watching a really engaging, compelling, affecting horror film, then it's worth writing down. So I jot down these ideas, and so these ideas were all just based on just visuals that pop into my head based on the way I'm being affected by the music. So I didn't want to get wound up in over analyzing lyrics and trying to take a really sterile kind of literal approach to what was going on there. There's hints of connection between lyrical themes and what you see, but for the most part, it's just me responding. Yeah, it's my subconscious responding to the sound that's going in, and these images are coming out, and I'm just kind of capturing them and working with them that way. And I would sort of bounce ideas back and forth with the other guys in the band, just in case anybody's got any real objections to anything. Because there's always that chance, someone might go, oh shit, I don't know if we really want to be going down that kind of road. That's a little bit too much this or a bit too much that. But it ended up having a really great momentum and flow about it, where the guys were just curious as to what was going to come out of this. So they didn't really. I think they were just happy that I was kind of leading this, spearheading this music video thing. So they were kind of just happy to sort of let me do my thing. And yep, that sounds very weird and interesting. Keep doing it. Yep, whatever you want, man. That sounds fucking. That sounds very strange. Go for it. Do your thing. So, yeah.
Well, with the ideas that were in the video, which I leading up to chatting with you, I've been watching the video since it came out, I think back in February, but of course wanting to write some stuff down. I'm like, all right, there's obviously what you said about not needing to go too close to what the lyrics were and get more of like the visual from what you're getting the audio. There's a few things in the video that really stand out to me. The first thing I wanted to kind of pick your brain about was the Amenta when it started way back when, I believe, and I think it was Mark was the vocalist back in like 2004. Long coats, almost kind of like a vampire kind of look to the band back then. As much as the music slayed, it was very like over the top kind of looking, like a sub vampire looking, appeal to it. And then from there, as the band kind of moved forward, it got more like the industrial, the gritty, the kind of almost covered in black kind of feel. Now we have the Amenta where the band's wearing white shirts with black ties and you're rocking the trench coat and everything. So I'm like, all right, so now they're moving towards this new look, along with the flesh mask that you came up with, and the recurring theme of water in the video, and the ballerinas and mannequins kind of changing back and forth. So there's a lot of concepts going on within the video. Putting the band together is like, all right, this is where we're at right now. So I could kind of get your insights on a few of those things, like the mask creation, which is a big visual with Amenta in 2021. A lot of people refer to it. They're like, dude, this mask is crazy. Like, what's the meaning? Where did this come from? How do some of the concepts in the videos kind of come about?
Yeah. Well, the mask specifically, the inspiration for that was directly from it was actually a book which was written by David Lynch, where he discusses this concept of what he calls the rubber clown suit of negativity. So it's this idea that when you're just super identified with your ego and become kind of addicted to suffering, you emanate an energy that kind of affects people around you, and you can get it. Most of us can probably identify with that experience of just feeling like you're suffocating in negativity, and at some point I guess you're forced to take responsibility for it, and ask the question, what is this, and do I need to continue this way? Because you get to a point where you're just sick of going around and around in circles. You have to say, shit, maybe I've actually got something to do with this. Which
I get it. I get it.
Is hilarious. As I'm saying it, it just sounds so funny, but because it's kind of so obvious now. I've done a lot of work on myself in the last sort of 7-8 years, and had a lot of revelations around these kind of topics. And yeah, that concept of the suffocating rubber clown suit of negativity really resonated with me, because I thought, yeah, I know what that feeling is. I know what it feels like to just feel like you're suffocating in your own shitness, you know. And that was his idea, his sort of idea of making a physical kind of description about what this feeling is. And I guess that's what I had in mind with this idea of making this mask, was that it looks like me, but it's not me. But I'm wearing it as if, you know, I'm completely committed to this skin, and I'm consumed by it. And not only am I consumed by it, but I want to put it on other people. I want everyone to be wearing this just like I have to wear this. And you find yourself getting, I mean, not necessarily everybody, but I know a lot of people that this has resonated with, where through peeling away these layers over time, you look back on your past incarnations of yourself and think, wow, it's like I'm not even that person anymore. What was I thinking? And I do look back on things and recognize these narcissistic traits and behavioral patterns and thought patterns that really shaped that character that I was. And through bit by bit stripping away these layers, I've become a lot more okay with myself, I guess. But yeah, I can really look back and recognize these traits and behaviors, and how obsessed I was with this suffocating, you know, rubber clown suit.
It's funny you bring that up, actually, because, you know, the whole basis of what we've talked about for, I think, about 75% of my podcast is about Carl Jung's shadow work, you know, and understanding the persona, the shadow, which mask you're wearing in public, which one that leads to your suffering when it's ignored, how it overrides you. So it really like kind of sounds like that's almost like a good, like your version of the clown suit mask is like a metaphor for that in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. 100%. And so that's why you see you see other people wearing the mask in the videos, because it's almost like this mask has its own kind of life force that if you spend too much time around it, it will end up creeping up onto your face and bleeding out into the people around me and affecting them, and, you know, either repelling them or bringing them closer,
right,
and they end up becoming, you know, affected by the same kind of negative thought patterns, behavioral patterns that I'm affected with. And it's that misery loves company thing.
Yep. Or projecting your mask onto other people. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's where that was kind of coming from. And and from there, it's this the idea of transmuting suffering, which is a whole, you know, journey on its own, and it's not an easy one, especially if you do have really dense layers of conditioning that through our life experience or even beyond that. And that's something, you know, not everybody can sort of swallow, but personally, I feel like we arrive into this existence already carrying certain elements of conditioning that we've carried over from wherever we've come through from. So
The shadow bag that you carry with you, the stuff that your parents hand to you to take with you throughout your life that you're not aware of half the time either.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the biggest step in making sense of that stuff for me anyway was changing my relationship with it. And rather than once you realize that it's there, because for a long time, we're not even aware that we're so twisted up in it, we think we are it. So if you can manage to get to a point where you can create a little bit of distance between your inner self and this avatar that you've created, the initial kind of response is, this avatar is awful. What, you know? But in having that kind of energy around that concept is actually fusing you tighter to it than creating space. So negativity breeds negativity. So as soon as I find myself, kicking my ass over, I've done this again. Oh, I've let this happen again. Oh, I'm falling back into old habits. I hate it when I do this. I hate it when I do that. That's just perpetuating what I'm trying to create distance between. So what's the answer? Okay, well, the opposite is the answer, is not hating it, but appreciating it and honoring it. And that's a hard thing to do if you haven't had practice. So it starts with an attempt and another attempt, and it becomes this ongoing work in progress that at some point you realize it doesn't have an end. And there's something liberating about that, because when you realize there's no finish line, you stop being so obsessed about the finish line. And when you're not obsessing about getting to the end of the race, you can start actually enjoying the present a lot more, or in a much deeper way, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, with the one of the things I've learned in studying young shadow work was you'll never get rid of it. You have to learn how to either live with it and integrate it, or it just overtakes your life, like one of the two. So when you are able to work through that and go, okay, I accept this part of, I'm going to integrate it, I'm going to embrace parts of it and see how it can work for me in a positive way, you're able to move forward from it. Otherwise you're just going to be dragged down because of it. And a lot of artists I know, they just decide that they're just going to let it run them over for the sake of art instead of actually dealing with it too, which I always find it's almost like you're shooting yourself in the foot, like allowing that. You might get some good art out of it, but eventually it'll just crush your life, as opposed to knowing you can do the art and have a positive outlook at the same time while embracing those darker parts of yourself.
Absolutely. Again, this kind of reminds me of the same reference point that I took that clown suit idea from, which was that David Lynch's book Catching the Big Fish is the title. What you sort of triggered was this memory from something I've heard David Lynch touch on numerous times, but this particular book was where I'd first come across it, where he's talking about the struggling artist myth, and how it's essential. A lot of people will go by that idea that it's a part of creating significant artwork is struggle, and he argues that and says, well, I honestly think that the more focused and the more conscious you are, the deeper your level of consciousness is, the more access that you have to spontaneous creativity, the more juice there is. So, and a lot of people use Van Gogh as the kind of landmark struggling artist, proof that we must struggle to create fantastic art. But he argues that, well, I think Van Gogh may have actually been more prolific had he had clarity. I don't think it would have actually affected the potency of his artwork had he had focus and deeper connection to self. I think it'd be the opposite. It would be what we know of Van Gogh's work plus more. He struggling is purely restraining. It's restraining our creativity. It just makes it harder to get out, so.
Yeah, it's like self-imposed resistance, basically, that you put in your own way. Granted, I think there's a lot of artists out of the course have that mental health issues, which I don't want to, I know Go had some of those, but you're totally right though. A lot of artists think that you have to suffer, you have to struggle, but it's just kind of a wall that you put in front of exactly what you said. It's like you're getting in your own way, so to speak.
Yeah, and I was guilty with that mindset for a very long time. I really was committed to that idea that that suffering was everything, and so I wanted to create suffering. I wanted to experience suffering on the deepest levels that I could find. It was, just a really completely self-destructive direction. And I was on that merry-go-round for a long time before I went, hang on, I think I hate this. This is not what I had in mind. Anything else would probably be worth having a try at, even if it doesn't work. I think it's time to start having a go at something else. And and once I'd started sort of dipping my toe in anything but that mindset that I've been trapped in for a long time, new little windows and new ideas start opening up, and you think, oh wow, I would have never considered that before, but sure, okay, let's play around with some other ideas. And before you know it, you're kind of realizing that I've had myself in a cage for a long time. And once I realized that was the case, I just wanted to figure out, okay, how can we get out of this cage, like really get out of it? And that was where the journey started, of just gradually trying to dissolve these layers that don't serve me anymore. And they may have had their time and their place, and them are probably a lot of experiences that I wouldn't have had it not been for that mindset. It all feels like it was a very relevant part of my journey, and I wouldn't change any of it. But it was time to move on. And I guess a lot of these kind of themes are kind of coming out in some of the imagery that I was mucking around with these videos. Not that I'd sat down and thought I need to talk about these topics. It was just I was just letting things spring to mind, and then going, okay, if that's what's happening, I'll write that down. And I took these concepts to the filmmaker that worked with me, and I didn't specifically say, I didn't give him any real specific kind of direction as far as colors go, as you mentioned before. But I knew that I did want it to be richly kind of vibrant and colorful, but I wasn't sure how exactly to approach it, or which kind of colors to focus on. I just knew that it'll be a waste for this not to have a rich kind of fever dream quality about it. And thankfully, he was just, we used to do a lot of experimental dark art and stuff as kids when we were in high school. We were always trying to kind of shock each other and create all sorts of fucked up things just to sort of shock each other and shock our teachers and pretty much everyone in that high school. Clearly we weren't, we didn't have a lot of friends. So which is fine. But yeah, so we were on the, as far as artwork goes, I knew that we think along the same lines in a lot of situations. So he just jumped on that and ran with it, and I didn't really need to sort of talk about the coloring. He just saw this opportunity to really work with juicy, oversaturated kind of, it's got this almost carnival magic that he's kind of, but it's so kind of saturated and in such an a jarring situation with these conflicting images. Like, you've got these beautiful things but also these very ugly things, and they're all kind of twisted together. And yeah, he really milked that. And as soon as he started playing around with the treatments, I was just like, yep, that's it. We're totally on the same page. You just keep doing what you do. This is great.
Right.
Fuck yeah.
And
So,
did you guys shoot
yeah.
quite a, because I know that the more recent video, hopefully I say this right, Soraya Status came out.
Oh, psoriasis. Yep.
Yeah, Soraya Status has very similar video footage. So did you guys end up shooting a lot of footage and decide, okay, we can kind of span this a little bit over towards the second, video if we decide to do it? Or was that a completely different monster that you guys decided to tackle?
It was actually the filming the trailer for the album was its own project, with a couple of different shoots to put that together. And one of those shoots for the trailer, I'd suggested getting some other footage so we could potentially tie that footage in with a video at some point. So I had a discussion with the other guys in the band about it, and they were really championing the idea of using that particular setup for the song Psoriasis. So I said, okay, cool. Well, while we're shooting this trailer footage in this particular location, I'll do some lip syncs of Psoriasis there as well, and that way we've got it in our back pocket for if we do end up doing a video for that song. And so it was, later down the track, let's do another video. We've got some footage there already, so now we just need to shoot some more that will tie in well with the stuff we already have. So and there was a lot going on at that time. It was really, really hectic time where we kind of needed to really cram that into a single session. So we did one more shoot using I think just using the same set, and it was kind of a really we just kind of had to blast through that video. So it ended up being not anywhere near as kind of much of a journey as the See Your Money video was, but it still ended up with some quite striking visuals that I quite enjoy. We got one of the ballerinas from the first video to come and do some work with us for that, which was really cool. She's a fantastic performer and professional who's since relocated to Sydney. But that's the story with that. And then the Apocalypsis video was just because there was this, we felt this real necessity for having something that actually looked like a band, since none of us live in the same state. We need to somehow show that these are real people playing these songs and writing collaboratively. And so that was all shot individually in different parts of Australia. Each member had to organize their own shoot, and create a space for it and light it and film it. And then, yeah, all that footage was kind of brought together, handballed to Garth. Here's a big pile of mixed shit. Now figure it out how to put that together into a cohesive music video. Good luck with that. So that was pretty amazing to see how well he pulled that together, because that was potentially a real nightmare. But yeah, he pulled it together really well. We've actually since finished another video. So this is not common knowledge at all. But at some point we realized there was a real, the song Twined Towers from Revelator got a lot of spotlight in a lot of the reviews that we had for the album, and also a lot of fans made points about it as well. And eventually we got to this stage where we thought, damn, it's a shame we haven't done a video for that song, because it feels like, and it is the centerpiece of the album. So it really is this kind of core of Revelator, and there's no visual for it. So we threw ourselves into yet another music video for the same album. And this one was a little bit more challenging. It's the longest song on the album, so time is a massive factor for anyone involved in making films, short music videos. And when a filmmaker sees the song goes for over 8 minutes, it's just like, oh, really? Okay. But yeah, so we've actually constructed a video for that song, which is going to be premiering through No Clean Singing on the 5th of November. So that's not too far away.
That is Friday. Yeah,
that is Friday.
It's Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so we're really excited that those guys have latched onto that and are happy to spruik that for us. And we have a lot of admiration for No Clean Singing and everything that they do. Really fantastic, passionate people. But yeah, so this video we had a lot more of an artistic kind of approach to it, in the sense that we're looking at it more of an abstract art piece than trying to create a story. Whereas See Money was more of a story, like we're creating this, or at least illusion of some kind of story. Whereas this is just this very sort of strange, uncomfortable collection of almost like moving paintings. Like you're just forced to look at these paintings one after another, and each of them are quite disturbing and animated, moving, and you're just kind of forced to watch this painting move about and do its thing. Very different approach to anything we've done before, but it was really fun because it was so much more experimental, I guess. So yeah, you get to see some pretty interesting things going on in that video. I'll be interested to know your response.
I'm excited for that. Like it's funny because the last question I wanted to ask you involves the clean singing on the album. So the irony is your guys's acoustic track with Clean Singing is going to be on No Clean Singing when it debuts. So very well planned, Cain. Very well planned. Oh, there's the irony in that. But that was knowing, again, being a fan of the group, knowing your work that you've done outside of the Amenta, not only just through various metal projects, but being a vocal coach, you really got to, I think, show fans that weren't aware of your range on the new album by having clean passages in tracks like Towers and Money, and throughout the album, it's kind of sprinkled here and there, but it's done in such a way that it doesn't sound like, if you hear like a deathcore band that's nothing but, like deathy, and then they just decided to do a clean track out, and we're like, well, that doesn't really fit.
Absolutely, yeah.
It kind of like jolts you, like, okay, was that just them trying an idea out without thinking how it would fit? But with this, with the stuff that you were able to do on the Revelator, sits within the tracks, sits within the flow of things. Did you approach the rest of the guys in the group, go, hey, it's time to let me sing a little bit when you were working on the album? Or was it kind of a group decision, like, hey, Cain should sing a little bit right here, and go a little bit clean and go for some melody? So where did, because it sounds great, and that's what I'm getting to, is it fits the vibe of the album, it fits the progression of the band. So tell me a little bit about the decision to integrate more of your vocal range into the album.
That's a great, an interesting question, because the truth is I've been bringing that approach to sort of haunting melodic clean stuff to the band since 2009. So the very first, like I mentioned before, the very first song that we worked on together was Void, and I heard that, and the first thing I heard was this would be a waste to not have some haunting clean vocals here, because this just needs it. So there are definitely clean vocals there. I mentioned it to the guys when I first listened to the arrangement that I'm hearing a lot of opportunity to get some melodic stuff going in here that I think will work in a really dark kind of way. I'm not trying to pretty up what the band's doing. I'm just hearing something that could really work well with what you're already doing. And their attitude from the start was always just throw something out there, try it, show us what you've got. Like, if you've got ideas, put it down, let's hear it. Because they're not shy about saying, if something completely goes against their feelings, they won't muck around. They'll just be like, no, we can't do that. That's not gonna, no. So I'd done some clean stuff for Void, but the way that I think, because the band had built this legacy of being this crushing, aggressive kind of beast of a band, the idea of melodic clean vocals becoming all of a sudden a focal point was a little bit too much of a jump, maybe. So in Void, the vocals are treated in a way that they are used a lot more in a more subtle kind of way, to not really just, we didn't want to give that impression that, now we're this band, now we're a clean vocal band. So they kept it quite, the mix, the way that they were treated in the mix was to make them more of a subtle part of the equation. And there's been little touches of that throughout Flesh is Air. There is a lot of clean stuff that I did for that as well. But again, it was this similar kind of treatment where everyone's on board with it, but then when it comes to the point of mixing, Eric's got a really he's got to be quite calculated in the way that he plays around with things. And I think he may have been in a very similar kind of mindset then, that I don't think we want to let this be too focal. It's an aggressive album. Let's not let this clean stuff become too much of a, too much at the forefront of the recording. So the way that the clean stuff is treated in that album is very, again, it's used very subtly, and it's treated in a way that it's kind of quite verbed out and almost sounds more like background synth than an actual singer, which I think worked really well. I think it worked really well for the album, and most people aren't aware there's any clean vocals on there. Anytime I discuss this with people, I don't remember hearing any clean vocals on there. Well, you did, but you probably didn't realize it was vocals. But yeah, I think because the writing process of Revelator was such a ongoing thing, and a lot of the material in the instrumentals side of things is just so strongly centered around hooks that I think we were just at a point where the guys were a little bit more easy about these clean parts having their time in the spotlight, because it felt more right this time, rather than it didn't seem jarring. It felt very natural for everyone, I think. So everyone was a lot more excited about letting it really breathe. But there was no specific conversations about it or anything like that at the beginning. It was just, as always, here's a demo of an early draft arrangement of a song. I listen to it and just honor whatever is popping up. So if I'm feeling this really strong pull for a particular kind of melodic clean vocal part, I get excited about it, and I have to catch it and put it in there while it's fresh, and then just kind of gently manipulate it over time and tweak it here and there. But I'll draft a demo recording, send it back to the rest of the guys to say, hey, this is my initial response to this song is these vocal arrangements. And then, they listen and get back to me. Oh, wow, that's really interesting the way you've done this here and there. I wouldn't have thought of having that there, but it works really well, or whatever. So no real discussions about whether we should or shouldn't, or how should we approach it. It's just a very natural action reaction process where it's just listening and trying to be as complementary to what I'm hearing as possible. That's one thing that is always very at the center of what I'm doing. I am working for the song, not fighting it. And one thing is, you see it a lot around, but more so with less experienced writers, I guess, where the singer is so excited to sort of have their moment and have their input that they kind of are just looking for. They're just kind of trying to fill space. You're just trying to go, me. Here's me. Stuff happening. I want to be as involved in this as I can, and they can often end up sounding like they're fighting with the song rather than trying to find their place in it. So I'm very much. I try to remain very conscious of that always, not to fall into that trap of how can I bring the attention to me? It's never the case. It's always how can I be as valuable as possible vocal wise to this section.